Are you tired of spending your time and money chasing strategy after strategy only to discover what worked 10, 5, or even 2 years ago is not working now? Things shift fast in the online space, and if you're not keeping up, you're getting left behind. It's time for something different. Welcome to the Marketing, Media, and Money Podcast, where every single episode will be jam-packed with proven, profitable strategies, behind-the-scenes secrets, and what's working now resources from industry experts and global influencers to help you scale your business, shorten your learning curve, and stand out in a crowded, noisy marketplace. And now, your host, award-winning marketing and media strategist, and international speaker, Patty Farmer.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the Marketing, Media, and Money Podcast. I'm your host, Patty Farmer, and I'm looking forward to sharing today's industry expert with you. And today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, right? It's a topic that I think is really, really important. It's not about marketing, media, money, but it leads to marketing, media, money if you do it right. So today what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about personal branding and why it matters to you. And if it doesn't, why it should. So our guest today is Claire Bahn, and she is a personal brand strategist and the CEO and founder of Claire Bahn Group. She helps high-achieving entrepreneurs, investors, founders, and executives create magnetic personal brands to increase their visibility, deal flow, and opportunities. And as an entrepreneur and influencer with over 70,000 plus followers on social media, she has learned the importance of creating and maintaining your personal brand. She helps everyone from entrepreneurs to business executives leverage their personal brand to develop the authority, influence, and trust they need to exceed their business goals. So thank you so much, Claire, for being here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Patty. I'm excited to be here.
I am really excited to have you here too, because I really think that brand is very, very important. And I think not only is it important, I think it's one of the things that people get confused about of what it really is. So I want to start with that.
Okay.
So let's talk first about some of the myths that people have about what they think your personal brand really is, what it isn't, right? So let's talk about some of those myths. We're going to debunk some of those right now.
One of the things that I hear all the time is like, okay, just do some magic for me and make tons of people come to me. So there's no magic wand that I can, wave. So that's one of the myths. The next one is that people really think, they get confused. I know you and I talked about this before, about whether it's your logo, your website, your social media handles. They kind of feel like, well, I tweet once a week, or I've tweeted before, or I have a LinkedIn profile, blah, blah, blah. I'm branded. Well, yeah, I believe that your personal brand is this living, breathing thing, and people can really just get a gut reaction to you. And if you basically just kind of put a couple things out there and you're done, what kind of taste is that leaving in people's mouth? Are they going to hire you? Are they going to work with you? Are they going to, all this kind of stuff? If they think that you just kind of like punt on everything, I mean, it's kind of just seems like a punt if you just say, oh, I just did this one thing and it's magic and it'll just happen. So I think those are just some of the myths that come to my mind.
I think that is so true, because I feel like a lot of times people don't realize that something that's important to them. Like I remember one time somebody told me that they loved their brand and they were hiring me, and their brand was like something in the medical health and wellness industry, but they loved this butterfly because their mom loved butterflies or their mom had passed away, and they were really attached to that butterfly. And we had to try to figure out a way to incorporate that. So there's a lot of reasons why people have different assets that they want in their brand. But for me, and correct me if I'm wrong, so where do you stand on this? Because I didn't ask you before the show. But I believe, in my business anyway, that your brand is really what people think, say, and share about you. So I always say, what are people saying about you when you're not in the room? And more importantly, I always ask people all the time, have you ever been introduced or had people share about you. And afterwards you thought to yourself, where in the world did they get that? Right. And I know as a speaker, as well as someone who's in marketing, it is very, very important to me that they don't bury the lead, so to speak, and that they share what I really want people to know, right? Because we know that that's what going from told to sold is really all about, right?
Mm-hmm. Your brand is not only what people think about you, it's something that can be cultivated, but it has to be done based on, what your expertise is and that sort of thing. I feel like your personal brand can really, how I like to think about it is you're controlling the narrative. So if you think about PR back in the day and you would do PR and you were honest, did one article or you were on one TV show or whatever. And that was like, okay, look, these are the things that I've done, but they are owning the narrative. And if they decide to take it down, because it's old news, then it's done. Your brand is done. That event is over. And so that's why I really think of this personal brand as this kind of having this compounding effect of constantly, helping others. That's the way I look at it. And with that, people will be able to find information about you, decide to work with you. And it's because they can see who you are. So I agree with what you said, but I also believe that you control the narrative by what you share on social media, videos that you share, podcasts. Because people are going to get that reaction out of you, but you actively having this podcast is part of your personal brand and it's part of owning that narrative. So I think they go hand in hand.
I think so too, because you could be putting out all kinds of things and then you think, oh, are they putting those out correctly and in the way I want my brand to be done? Right. I know that guests who are on my podcast are always like amazed by the assets that we give them to promote them on the podcast. But part of that is because obviously, if I'm asking someone to be on my podcast and to share value, I want to promote them as best I can. But I also want them to promote the podcast the way I want my brand to show up too. There's a lot of different sizes on social. And when people use the wrong size, it chops it in half. And that's not how I want my brand to look, right? And it's also not how I want my guests to look either. So I supply those for them to make sure that they do. So I'm controlling that narrative, like what you said. And I do think it is really, really important to cultivate what it is that you want that to be. Because if you just think, I would just want to say, if people were going to your news feed right now, and they were looking at your newsfeed, what does it say? Like, have you done a good job so people would know clearly what it is you do and how you serve? Because I think people have a lot of different things. For example, today's World Philanthropy Day. And I know for me, one of the things that is so important to me is I love doing business. This is just personal. I love doing business with people who have integrated some sort of giving in their business model. That makes me feel really, really good about giving somebody my money. I want it to align with my beliefs and with my vision, right? And how I serve in the community. So for somebody to do that in their brand, that's a real step up for me. So there's a lot of different things that people do.
I agree. And again, it's something that you can actively work on. You can do today. You don't need to put like a ton of money into it. Obviously, you can get to that point where you're, hire people to help you do it, but it is something you can do right now. And that is really the beauty of it. Just like what you're saying, you can share content, you can share the information that you have, you can help others, and there's nothing stopping you from doing it right now. Just block off that time and do it. So
I think that's important.
Yeah.
So what would you say is personal branding and why should it matter to you? Like, we've talked about a few things here, but let's really kind of dig deep there. Why should it matter to you in today's business environment more than ever?
Well, really, the first really easy thing to think about it, there are a lot of people that don't do it. So competition in any facet of your life, whether it's you want to, obviously get clients, get some sort of deal. We have our clients that use their personal brand for deal flow, get hired for a job, anything you really think about. Most people are not working on their personal brand actively. So if you do that, you have already leveled up your profile, your brand against the others in the field. So that is why it matters to you. And then ultimately, again, just like what we talked about, it is the thing that is going to magnetize people to you by sharing. It's just not willy-nilly, right? It's just this person that you were talking about that was obsessed with, medical field, but obsessed with butterfly. If they constantly shared butterfly information, well, that's kind of like on a personal level, and it wouldn't really help their business brand. So ultimately, sharing information that would help your business brand and not be salesy is going to be key to attracting people. And really I see this work all the time. Sharing information freely, not asking for anything in return. That's the not being salesy part. And that solidifies how people feel about you. Are you truly an expert? Do you know what you're talking about? So if someone wants to work with you or they want to hire you, they're going to do a deep dive on Google. They're going to look, do you have videos? What does your Instagram look like? What's on Facebook? And is it good or is it bad? So there's also, sometimes people are sharing stuff they probably shouldn't be sharing on social media. So let's get rid of that. So there's a lot of cleanup you can do too. So it's not only just sharing information, it's also cleaning up and being very thoughtful about what you're sharing, because it could have a negative taste in people's mouth as well.
I think that really makes a lot of sense. And I always like to say that this is what popped in my mind as you were saying that. A lot of times people know the significance of wanting to be, say, for example, on the first page of Google, right? Like, oh, yes, I know I should do all these things so Google loves me, right? To get all that Google juice and be on the front page. But really the question here is, if we were just thinking about your brand, have you done the same amount of work, like how we do SEO to feed Google? Have you done the work for your brand that if we were just talking about your brand, would your brand be on the front page, right? Or not? Like where, and if it was, would it represent you the way you wanted to represent you? And would it attract the clients, partners, strategic partners, et cetera, that you want to have because you didn't control the narrative, right?
Right. Well, and if you also think about it, it's kind of two-sided. It's not only I'm going to Google your name, because that's like a slam dunk, right? I can own that. But it's also when someone does a search on what you have an expertise in. So for me, personal brand strategist, blah, 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 blah. The fact that when someone does a search on me, they go in, they're like, oh, interesting. Who's Claire? She looks at, they can look at my competitors. And again, it's surprising how a lot of competition in many fields don't really, I know that you mentioned that people think it's kind of people understand how important Google is, but I find so many people don't understand it. They don't understand. I mean, sometimes I joke that like Google is God because you have to make Google happy. Otherwise, the rest, because there's some statistic out there that says something like 65 to 70% of people, if they find you on Google search, like at the top of a Google search, they are going to believe you're the best. And if you think about that, it's kind of like gamification of your brand. I
think is really important. Although I also think that there are some things that it's going to be pretty hard to own first page of. Like I'm in marketing, right? How many major companies do you think there are that probably are getting found on the front page for marketing, right? If that's what you were trying to go for was marketing, right? So I think it is important that when they Google you, that you come up for other things. They see that you're involved in this, or they see that you're involved in that. And that's something that's important to them. So they don't care if you're number one. What they care about is that you align with what their vision and what their beliefs are too. So I think that can really be important as well. But it does really matter, because I always like to tell my clients all the time, remember, yes, Google is in the information business, but we are in the transformation business. And we need to make sure that we remember both sides of that. Why is somebody hiring you, right? What are you the authority in? And so I think that is really, really important. And that's why I think nailing your brand is so, so important.
One thing I was going to mention in that, so say you're going for marketing, there's so many other like long tail keywords that you could go after if you were actively wanted to use Google to drive whatever it is, leads, opportunities, things like that. That could be a way around just your general marketing, digital marketing, things like that are so competitive. Just do, long tail. And literally if you got, so say, digital marketing has 90,000 searches a month. I don't know how many it has, but I'm assuming it's probably around that in the United States. And so say you said digital marketing, if you had something just a long tail, a few more words, then imagine how if you could crack off 10% of that traffic, whatever it might be. So that is also a strategy as well. If you want to, if your niche is so competitive, which I know for a lot of our clients it is, and that is always one of our strategies. You go for the low-hanging fruit first.
Absolutely. So why do you feel that you cannot hide from your personal brand anymore?
Well, it really goes back to the things that I was mentioning before. One, I can Google you, and, if you don't be one of those people in a pool, in the field like I was talking about, that doesn't worry about your personal brand because you're being judged on it for whatever it is you want to do. I want to join a club. I live in Los Angeles. I want to join a private club. They're going to look at my brand. Do I look like someone they want to bring into my club? I'm looking for a job. I want to be hired by a client. I'm looking for an opportunity for funding or whatever it is. There's so many things, and that is what they look for. And even it's funny. I was actually talking to somebody. I think it was actually a consultation with one of my team. An actress came to us to get help with her personal brand, and she was saying she lost out on an acting gig she knew she was perfect for. She was a better actress, but the other person had more of a following. So if you don't, that's why you can't hide from it. It's really everywhere you could any industry, anywhere you live. If there's if there's somebody that kind of is seen as like the one that is the clear leader based on their brand, more than likely they are going to get whatever opportunity it is. And don't let somebody else get it. You get it.
That makes a lot of sense to me. So how would you say having a great, like a phenomenal even, personal brand, because basically what you're saying is it's the foundation for a successful career, whatever your career is.
Yes. That basically it can attract and magnetize your ideal clients, your ideal people to you. And that's what it does. It works for me. It works for my clients. That's why I talk about the compounding effect of it and really being very strategic about what keywords you go after and things like that, because you want to show up when people are actively looking for whatever it is that you want, right? If you want a speaking engagement, you want a press opportunity, you have to actively be where someone is searching for someone for that opportunity, for someone that they can hire for that opportunity. And that is so key and so important. So it's a lot of times people get caught up in what is the ROI? They get so fixated on it. Well, I'm spending all this money. What am I getting in return? How many leads am I going to get? How much money am I going to get? You can't go into it thinking that. So you would mention that you like to work with people that give back to the community. I think if your personal brand is giving back, we actively talk to potential clients. We tell them that if you don't go into this with with altruism in your heart. I actually did a video on this, but if you don't go in it with the purpose of giving, it won't work for you because you will not magnetize the right people, the right clients, because there's just something going I'm just giving just enough so I can strike so that I can ask for something, because that's the only thing I'm fixated on. And that is where you're going to fail. So the great personal brands are the ones that give, and they attract people to them because they're like, wow, this person is those people that just you're like, wow, I want to talk to them. I want to have them speak at my event. I want to have them on my podcast, whatever it is because guarantee it's because they've solidified their expertise and they are literally giving. The ones that go in there and strike, I always think of like a rattlesnake because I, live in Southern California and I grew up in Texas. Like the rattlesnakes that are just like, they don't even you don't even hear the rattle. They just come in and strike and they're just like, buy this now. Those people are not the ones that are constantly magnetizing opportunities. If you think of something like somebody like a Gary Vaynerchuk, he sells very expensive products, but if you look at his social media, he's very much, I'm giving this information. I want to help you. I want to help you.
I think that is really, really important. And people can see it. You can't fake people on that kind of stuff. We live in a world now where that whole fake thing just doesn't really work so much more. I mean, remember in the old days where people were giving all those, not me, but there were people giving all those fake testimonials and stuff. You can't do that anymore. I mean, now when you if you're going to share a testimonial, you better share their website and a way to reach them so people can check it. That's what gives you credibility. It doesn't give you credibility anymore because you put first name, last initial, all that stuff. People don't want that anymore. We don't live in that world anymore. And I think it's really important. So Claire, what do you think about, is there some type of, for lack of a better word, an audit, a branding audit that people should go through? You know, we're coming up on sort of the end of the year now. Is there something that people should do every year or every quarter? Like, what do you suggest that people do, that they should be auditing their brand and looking at certain things to see if they need to update it or, maybe change it out? Like what kind of things are you thinking, and how often should people be thinking about doing it?
I feel it's kind of twofold. One, if you just kind of look at visually things and maybe content that you shared that maybe you should unshare. So that would be something, and maybe never share it again, right? Be very conscious about what you're sharing. Also, something that a lot of people don't do that we do is, if you think about, we're always looking at our websites, our clients' websites, like what is actually driving a lot of traffic to your website? Is it the right keyword? Is it a topic that makes sense? If it's not, tweak it. If it is, tweak it. So make whatever is driving the most traffic to your site better. Whether it's, adding more words, adding a video on YouTube, just doing whatever it is, but make it better, make it double down with more traffic. So that is one of the things that we actively do. We go back and we look at which blogs and which pieces of content are really driving traffic. And we're like, well, let's make it better.
I think that makes a lot of sense, because I don't think that people really look at that often enough. I mean, I know that even having a podcast, right? Even having a podcast every season, and like we're just getting ready to wrap up season 6. Every season, I take a little bit of a hiatus and look, right? I go back and check, what do we need to tweak? Is there something that we need to tweak? Do our graphics need to change a little bit? Is the time I release them the right time? How are they showing up when we're promoting them, right? Does it align with the sponsor that we have? Whatever the case may be. So I'm very, very aware of all of those things. Actually, to tell you the truth, I'm really aware in every single thing I do, but then I'm in marketing, right? So for me, I pay attention to everything I do, and I'm always looking, because what is it that, you got to be able to track it.
Oh, sorry. I was like, that's why I gave one chunk, because if you're not like doing a deep dive like that, you can at least do one blog.
Which I think is really important though, right? You have to start somewhere, but I think it is really important. And let's just go with that. So what would you say is the most important step in building your personal brand?
It's really fun. Well, maybe it sounds cliche, but you've got to do it. You've got to get started. Start small and make a decision of what you're what you really can do. I think that's one of the biggest things. People are like, you're talking about this being a slow time. People are like, oh my God, I'm going to post every day. I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to write 80 blogs. Yeah, that is not, let's be realistic. What's going to happen when things are busy? So you have to make a decision, an active decision that says, okay, this is really the time commitment that I can make to doing it. And you have to stick to it and do it. Because once you build, as you were talking about with your podcast, once you start to build an audience, you can't leave them hanging, going like, what? I thought Patty was going on a hiatus for a month. It's been 3 months. You can't do that. You have to be true. You have to put a stake in the ground and be like, this is what I'm going to commit to, and I'm going to be here for my audience. And so if that is literally, I post once a week, then post once a week, but just do it. Because like you were saying, when I'm going and searching for you, I will at least see that you have done new content, new-ish content, and that you're actively posting once a week. So it really just shows consistency. And that again will attract more people to you than if you just don't do anything. Or worse, you decide, oh my God, in December, I was like on fire, and doing everything. And then all of a sudden in December, or in January, I'm done. So just start slow.
I think that it is important to be consistent and relevant. I think if people can just start with consistent, like you said, if it's only once a week, good. But let it be in a way that people know, oh, she's only posting once a week, but here's when she's posting it. So we know how to find it. It's consistent and relevant. Right. And then can you touch a little bit on when you're talking about branding, how it is helpful and it's a good and easy to repurpose some of the content you already have, because that is going to help your brand too, because they're going to see it across a lot of platforms in a lot of different ways, which can help your brand as well.
Right. We always kind of look at repurposing content by way of blogs. So I create a long form blog, but then I can split it up. I can create a mini script for a YouTube video. I can cut that YouTube video and use it on, I can create an IGTV or a reel or a TikTok out of it. I can take it and I can put it on LinkedIn. So now you have like the videos out of the blog. And then from there, you can also share pieces of your content, whether it's, your blog is the 5 tips to X, Y, and Z. You say, here are the, tip 1, tip 2, tip 3. If you want more details, go and check out my blog. So there's ways you can dice up. If you have 5 tips, you can give 1 tip a day for a week. There's so many ways you can like slice and dice it. And that is one of the easiest ways to do it, is repurposing and but you have to put a lot of effort and make sure that whatever main source piece of content is good. Like you were talking about, make it relevant, and you have to be consistent with it. So you can't just do one blog and be like, I'm going to ride this one blog for 6 months. No, you have to keep adding more and giving people more and new relevant information.
Thank you so much for sharing such great content with us today, and kind of really like doing a little bit of a shift, because I think when it comes to brand and branding, people think they know what it is, but they don't really know what it is, and they don't really know how to apply it and how to apply it in a way to be consistent, relevant, like what you said, and how important that is. And it doesn't mean you have to be this rock star posting every single day, 5 to 7 times every day on every single platform, et cetera, et cetera. That's not really where it is. I mean, if I had $1 for every time somebody asked me what social media platforms they should be on, I always say, the simple answer is on the social media platforms where your potential clients are, right? You don't need to be on every single social media platform. So it's really thinking it out. So sometimes hiring someone like you to really walk them through this, because sometimes it's really understanding it. And when you can understand how the flow works, it's much easier to follow. And hey, it's not everybody's area of expertise, right? But thank goodness it's yours, right? So tell everyone how they can connect with you, because I'm sure they're going to want to.
Well, because I am personally branded, Claire Bahn is the easiest way to find me. You can Google my name, but clairebahn.com is really my home. And it has all of my social media and tons of blogs that you can find that can give you tons of help.
That's awesome. I love that you're a resource. So that is absolutely fabulous. And she comes bearing a gift as well. So tell us a little bit about the gift, Claire.
I offer a free personal branding masterclass that you can do as well. It really digs into the 5 essential key things that you need to do to build your brand effectively. So that is also on my website. You'll see it in the header, masterclass.
Yes, and you'll actually see it to make it even easier for you. You will see it in the button right below this podcast as well. And this is the Marketing, Media, and Money podcast. And so we always love to ask our guests, and we know you share such great content, but we really love to know, what would be your number 1 marketing, media, or money strategy?
So when we're talking about, to build money, if you think about it, the way you're going to do that, and I've kind of alluded to this all along the way, but you need to showcase your subject expertise, what you really are an expert in, and what you want, the opportunities that you want to magnetize to you. You need to share your subject expertise, and you leverage your authority and by kind of giving information, and you can do that all through your personal brand. So attracting people through giving great information is going to build your personal brand, build your credibility, build your authority, and ultimately help you in your pocketbook too. So
I love that. You said leverage, and that's my favorite word. So I really, really love it. So thank you so much, Claire, for being here with me today and sharing your brilliance so generously. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Patty. It was a pleasure.
And would you like a simple answer to the question, where should I focus my time and energy to attract highly qualified ideal clients? Then take the marketing, media, and money assessment in 3 minutes or less. You'll know where you are excelling, where you can make a few changes, and what steps to take to achieve massive results. Just go to www.m3, that's marketing, media, money, right? Go to www.m3bizquiz.com. And we want to thank you for joining us on the Marketing, Media, Money podcast. We also want to take a moment and thank our sponsor, the Exacta Corporation, founder of the Corporate Organizer, More Than a CRM, and an award-winning Family Organizer Plus. One busy life, two easy applications. Learn more at www.exactacorp.com. And to our audience and to our community, thank you for joining us on the Marketing, Media, Money podcast. And if you enjoyed today's episode, and I'm sure you did, please subscribe and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. Thank you again. Have a great week, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you for joining us today on the Marketing, Media, and Money podcast. To shorten your learning curve even more, make sure to grab your free copy of the Marketing, Media, and Money magazine at www.marketingmediamoney.com. I promise your business will thank you.